All right.
Hi.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good evening. Good evening. So my name is King Navasa, and I'm with.
I'm Bailey and I am the um, Funding and Grants Officer at Black Peter Health. And I'm really pleased to be here with you this evening. And hopefully, we will have a good chat about all things finance. Hopefully, it won't be too boring, but hopefully you'll all come away with some useful takeaways.
Brilliant. So, as Faye said, we're talking about a finances today, and it's called. We're calling it a fool's finance. I'm taking the seat as the fool today, and hopefully I can pull some tips out of Faye, about holiday budgeting, and as well as I guess we can go a little bit further and talk about grassroots funding and talk about specifically how strategies to go about gaining funding for small organizations if you're a small startup. So yeah, let's take it from there. Okay, so jumping right into it. This time of year, we normally everyone gets kind of anxious. Um, Lots of pressure to get a lot of gifts and that sort of. Just speaking on that on a personal level, like, do you come from a gift giving family? Like, does everyone go crazy this time of year to give each other gifts?
You mean donations? Yeah. Well, I think people tend to be in that festive spirit,
Mm,
during this time of year,
mm,
and they're more likely to give to charities. So um, yeah, we what we find in the charity sector, Christmas tends to be
mm,
a time of year when we get lots of donations, compared to the other times of the year. Um,
mm.
but and also June. June is Pride Month, so that's when lots of different organisations and companies
Okay.
start thinking about you know marking Pride Month, and that tends to be through sort of fundraisers, and I guess same goes for during the festive period.
Hold on, I need to take note. I was asking about gifts, but you jumped into donations, and those are great points. Hold on. So you're saying this time of year, people tend to have more to give as well in terms of giving donating to charities. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
charity.
mean, I
Oh,
guess I guess people are sort of in that mindset,
oh.
in terms of giving the more sort of generous and want to support
Mm,
um, charities, and also things like Secret Santa. Some people do opt for, well, instead of a gift, they might ask for a charity donation, to their chosen charity. So
mm.
there's lots of different ways of engaging with um, you know with organizations, and
Yeah, there was their way of giving back in a sense,
exactly,
and
yeah.
you feel it that um, that feeling is amplified this time of year. So instead of giving a gift, they might say, "All right, I want to give to a charity, and that's going to be my big holiday spirit kind of pat on the back for myself." And we're thankful for it, mind you. We at Black Beauty Health, we're a registered charity as well. Cough, cough. So, so you can send some of those donations this way by all means. We would love that. And you also mentioned around June because of Pride. Um,
Yeah, so
mhm,
June is Pride Month, and we know it tends to be more of an American thing, but
mhm,
it has established its presence here in the UK,
mhm,
and what we find is that schools, they're thinking about doing something to sort of celebrate
mhm,
Pride Month, so they might do things like non-uniform days, in return for a donation, but also it's also a great way to engage with employees in the workplace, so that might, we have like lots of companies that do bake sales, like rainbow cake sales and all the rest of it to mark Pride Month. So um, yeah, I think for LGBT charities in particular,
Mhm.
June tends to be, a really good month. In addition to December, which is the festive period.
Okay. Now, my next question would then be, it's all nice to hear that different entities like schools and employers and like offices are doing their own little charity drives, um, a fundraiser within the office with the intent to give to a charity, for example. But then, for example, I'll use us for an example. So, how would we tap into that? So, how do we tap into those funds that they're raising? Or how do we get sort of um, how do we get in there and ring the bell to say, hi, we could use some of those? It's like, can you send them our way? Because I know a lot of the times they go directly to a lot of the I'm not trying to bash them by any means at all, but things like, for example, cancer
Yeah,
research,
yeah,
um, and like everything else just kind of falls through the cracks. But how would you say do we tap into that as a charity to say, hi, we're here, um, and we could use some of those funds. We could use some of that funding to do some of the things we do. And so, do you have any sort of tips for any small charities like ourselves again on how we can weasel our way in there
yeah,
and access some of
absolutely.
those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you made a really valid point there about, some of the bigger charities. They
Mm,
do absolutely, phenomenal work.
mm,
Like kinds of charities supporting, disabled people,
mm,
all the rest of it. And that does mean charities like ours, LGBT charities,
mm,
they do fall into those kind of cracks. And naturally, I read an article not too long ago, and it found that the income received by LGBT charities,
mm,
um, if you consider the income received by all charities, in the
mm.
voluntary sector, only LGBT charities, they received 0.06%, as a proportion of all income received by charities. So 0.06%.
I had to write it down to get a visual look at it. 0.06.
Yeah.
Um,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's income received by LGBT charities.
Mm,
That's what we get, 0.06%. So it really tells you um, that LGBT charities, they don't really attract that sort of mainstream, support that some of the bigger charities may perhaps do. And I
which is
guess,
unfortunate. Wow. I never got that sort of visual before. You quantified it. And I mean, I had an idea to say, well, obviously, if we're going up against um, the bigger, well-established charities and causes, there'd be some disproportionate needs
exactly,
going on there. But to say 0.06%, um, and
yeah,
even
absolutely,
considering that alone, I can see other LGBT charities, for example, that we're still doing amazing things just running off of that alone. So
yeah,
imagine if that was to be hiked up and we got a bigger share of that.
yeah, even 1%. Do you know
Even
what I mean?
1%. Yeah. Oh my goodness. We're not even not point. Let me say it one more time. Not point not six. Again, if you're watching and you want to donate to Black Beetle Health.
Yeah, do go to our website. Feel free to donate
Yeah.
there. Um,
Brilliant.
yeah,
So
and I think a part of that, I think there's a range of different factors. Really, I think um, people don't really see LGBT issues as sort of a charitable cause. I think a lot of people think, well, in the UK we've got same-sex marriage and all the rest of it, and so there's your equality. But we know that at Black Peter Health, that's not the case. I mean, we know that LGBT people experience health inequalities, let alone LGBT people of colour. You know, those inequalities are, of course, going to be exacerbated. So I think, there's a general sort of lack of awareness, and I think that's because there's not a huge amount of evidence. Not to say that, you know, these health disparities don't exist. Is that, there aren't any sort of studies or research that's taking place, to look into those sort of issues. And so, how do we measure something, if we don't have that sort of information, so I
Mhm,
think, it all kind of feeds into a cycle of, you know there's a lack of evidence. Therefore, commissioners and funders don't understand the problem. They're not aware of the problem that exists,
mhm,
and that in turn, commissioners and funders don't fund charities like ours, and it just kind of goes on into a cycle. So the I think we really do need to sort of break the cycle, and I think um, you
mhm.
know we're that's what we're doing at Black Peter Health. We're trying to,
Yes.
because evidence is so key, you
Mhm.
know, and
Especially
so
when it's a small evidence base that's there, it's almost non-existent. So we're adding to that. We're helping build that, and of course trying to build that from the LGBT and LGBT POC perspective as well, trying to get us more, when I say us as a community, more involved in those studies, more involved in those in that information and accessing that information and
yeah,
access to services and that sort of thing. Uh, but then to get I keep going back to the funding bit, but to get the funding that you mentioned again, how does one go about knowing now that okay, we know that funders are out there? How do we sort of package what we're doing to apply for funds from them or to apply for a grant or something? How do we,
um,
yeah, how do we go
so
about
so
that?
so
Mhm.
is that more sort of the process?
Yeah, what's the process? Take me through it because I don't know at all.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Mhm.
of course. So, I guess the the first step,
Mhm.
well, you know what, funding, it's kind of almost shrouded in mystery, isn't it? So, hopefully I'll help to kind of debunk that. But, as far as the process goes, I think, number one, find out who those funders are, and you can do that by, subscribing to these funding bulletins. A lot of them are free, and those bulletins can give you such valuable information. It gives you information on, on who the funder is, what they like to fund, what their priorities are, um, and sort of, the process of that. So, do we fill out an application form? Do we have an interview? Do we pitch for it or whatever? So that's where you would start. You would do your research, and then once you've identified the suitable funder, you there's several different ways of going about with it, but I like to get in touch with a funder at first, just to have a informal chat about, about us as an organisation, what we do, um, and just to see if that's something that they're interested in. And actually, that conversation can be, really helpful, because then you'll get a sense of whether, um, your proposal would be of interest to the funder. So it often, because if the proposal isn't what they're looking for, then they'll at least tell you that, and then you can, save your time and look for another funder. So, let's say this funder,
Mhm.
is really interested in our project. So we write up a proposal, and that's really looking at, what the project is, um, you know, how you're going to do it, how are you going to monitor it, and the why. why you're doing this project, because you know you what is in need. You kind of have to convince the funder that the project, um, i.e., for example, Black Peter Health, you know, um, we've got to demonstrate, you know, what what makes us important, what makes us different to, the other organisations that are perhaps, doing sort of similar sort of activities to us. So you've got to really make your case for support to these
Mhm.
funders, and I guess following on from that process. So you submit that proposal, and then the funder will, usually not all the time, but they might get in touch with you to say, you've been successful or not. So I guess that's really sort of the main process, really, um, in terms of going about with a funding bid.
Okay. And um, just to touch on some finer details there, when you said identify the funders, is that because depending on the sort of what can I say it? Depending on the sort of work that you're trying to do, are there specific funders who kind of outright say, all right, we're looking to fund an LGBT cause or public health cause or um, uh, some other sort of research? Do they specifically sort of list those things?
Yeah, actually, most grant makers, they will have, priorities. They'll have a list of priorities,
Mhm.
and that really sets out their sort of strategy on how they want the funds to be distributed. And so they'll often have things like, as an example, they might say in their criteria that they're looking for grassroots organisations,
Mhm.
in which case we would fall into that. Um, we don't really have a lot of funders that specifically say they'll fund LGBT causes, but they might say marginalised communities or something to that effect, which would usually indicate interest in supporting LGBT communities. So I do find more often than not, the funders will have some sort of criteria, and for those that don't, they tend to be really, really small uh,
Mhm.
grant making bodies. So my sort of best bet, like if you really want to sort of maximize your time, then I would go for the funders that explicitly state that they're interested in funding
Mhm.
those sort of areas.
Okay, okay, that's good. All right, so thanks for clearing that up for me. And adding on to that, it's right. So now we've identified the funders, we've put a proposal forward, and let's say we got the grant. How do we go about sustaining those funders? How do we keep their interest in funding what
Yeah,
we're about?
yeah,
How do we sort of present that budget if, or go into as much detail as you can, really? Like, how do we sustain those funders?
yeah. So I think it's really important um, that it's a two-way relationship,
Mhm,
between ourselves and the funders,
mhm,
and that means that it's very, very rare that you'll have a funder that gives you X amount of money and then that's it. It has to be a relationship. Your fundraising is really all about building relationships, and so it's really important that if we've been successful in securing funding, that we continue to maintain those links with the funder. That might be um, having, I don't know, sending them quarterly reports on the difference that the funding is helping to make. It could be just meetings and catch ups with a funder. They really like to see that human element of um, of the um, of the project that they're funding. So just those touch points, I think, really help to develop that relationship, and in turn improve the chances of this funding becoming longer term, because you've established that relationship, so they're more likely to fund you.
Oh, see, I'm literally taking notes and stuff here. So, All right. Okay. So I hope that gave any new startups listening, any new charities, any new POC charities in particular, or LGBT charities. Hope that gave you sort of a baseline on how to go about getting funding for your own projects and uh, well, of course, you could actually tap into you can tap into our resources in the sense of send us an email. I mean, if you would like more information about this from Faye, she does a phenomenal job um, in our team. So if there's anything we can do to sort of share that information or share that knowledge, um, by all means, reach out and we will do that. Okay, so let's go into personal budgeting. Okay, you can get as personal as you want. I am shameless, so I'll tell you. I am like holiday season. I start pressuring myself to save. I sacrifice things like getting my nails done. Look, they're terrible. But I did it that way just to make sure that I could make the kind of feast that I was planning in my head. You know, sacrifice hair and put over there. It's all about opportunity costs as well. Um, but personal budgeting. So, do you have any sort of personal budgeting tips for someone during the holiday season? The typical person during the holiday season, you know, they're feeling a bit stressed because it's like, oh goodness, I have five nieces and then my two siblings, and then I gotta buy something for my mom, and then oh my goodness, Susan at the office got me something last year, so I need to get her something. How would you? What kind of tips would you give that typical person that's a bit stressing right now with budgeting during the holiday season?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, this is the holiday season is a time when people might be sort of struggling with their finances,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess my main tips would be, you know, maybe this isn't really something that people want to do, but what I like to do is kind of have like a spreadsheet, right?
Okay.
And it and then I have like a column that says, money coming in. So from the job, your um I don't know, like interest that you're getting from the bank or whatever,
So it's like
or
all your income, you have
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then you look at your sort of expenditure really, and um, you figure out how much you're paying in bills, how much money you're giving to your parents or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all that sort of stuff. And so that gives you a clear picture of your current financial position,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll then be able to better work out how much you can spend on gifts and things like that. So I think that's one way of doing it. And
So just to
also,
recap on that, just to recap on that really quickly before you continue. So you're saying it would be very beneficial if you made a visual representation so you could look and actually see this is my income and that's my expenditure. So then we're talking about the main needs and the main income at this point. So make this is how much I gotta pay in bills. That's how much my internet's for. Like list everything. That's how much I'm paying on Netflix. That's on my Amazon Prime. That one is for whatever. But then to have that visually represented so you can sort of see it. So it's almost more real, almost more tangible to see
yeah,
it.
absolutely. I mean, I
All right.
think a lot of people, they shy away from their finances. I think maybe there's a sort of element of, you know, if they don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be sort of a contributing factor when it comes to getting into debt and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you have a really clear idea of what's coming in and what exactly you're spending on, that gives you a better idea of what you're able to um, kind of spend on gifts and things like that. But also as well, we know that we tend to spend more during the festive period, so it might be that we adjust our November budget. We might want to save a bit more in November to account for the increased expenditure that you're gonna be doing in December.
Oh,
So just little things like that. I mean, because you can anticipate that,
hmm.
if that makes sense,
So
and then
I'm
have
listing that as another point. So anticipate. Ah! We're making a whole board. First point was visualize. Ah, I'm just labeling it, trying to make it all sexy. Hold on. So, and then secondly is anticipate. So you can see what your income and expenditure is, and you can anticipate that you're going to want to spend more come holiday season. So start saving earlier,
yeah,
not cutting from areas in the expenditure box from earlier. Um,
yeah, it
Not
might
even
be
just November, but I guess for
exactly.
summer. We'd be like, okay, well, I've did my holiday spending during the summer. Let's start saving now, looking forward to
The
Christmas.
future. Exactly, yeah.
Um,
And also, if you're really strapped for money, then homemade gifts. I think people really
that's
appreciate.
me.
Yeah, I think really people really do appreciate the time and effort that you've gone into maybe crafting a little something for a loved one than buying them a book or a toy or whatever that they might discard, a few months later down the line. So, I do think that there are always options, and I think people tend to appreciate that thing more.
I love that. I'm trying to think of another sexy word to phrase it as. Visualize, anticipate, uh,
Oh,
craft it,
yeah. Oh,
resourcefulness.
sort of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Listen, by the time I'm done with this, I'm literally going to have my own fool's guide to finances. Okay, I'm pulling it out of you. So I'm gonna call. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna leave it as crafted. That could be hyphenated and called one word. That's what I'm saying is because that's my business. All right. So, oh my goodness. And is that sort of your overall tip, or is there more to add to that?
Um, no, not really. I mean, I I'm not very a materialistic person, so maybe I'm not the best person to sort of ask about that. But
I still this is I want to pull it out of you. Whatever you have to offer, I'm
yeah,
here to learn. So by all
yeah,
means, don't feel that you have to say the right thing
yeah,
necessarily. I'm looking for a new perspective. I before this chat, I was telling you I had a brief background in finance myself,
mm,
very brief. I was I passed my exam and became a chartered banker, and then just 2 months after I left the bank, it just wasn't for me.
yeah,
Just wasn't for me. But to sort of, I was thinking of finances at that point. That was all just really corporate stuff, how to help other people in businesses and that sort of thing. I never really put it into a tangible or more useful day to day sort of personal budgeting and personal finance planning and that sort of thing. I never really looked into that for myself. So I literally taking this time now to learn from you, and you just gave me some great tips. And watch, I'm gonna put this together, and it could be like visualize, anticipate, craft it. If you can't buy it, craft it. Yes, save lots of money. All right, brilliant. And this is great. I don't plan myself on doing too much spending this year because, well, 2020 was a pretty poor year. Um, Pretty poor year. So I don't think I think it's a good year for me to be excused from giving gifts.
yeah,
But I do
absolutely.
intend to craft little elements. Plus, I'm fortunate that not many of my friends are very materialistic, so it's easier to give them gifts.
Yeah.
Things like what's a gift that you appreciate getting, no matter like what the cost was. I wonder if I phrased that right. I think I did. All right. Go ahead.
So what would I appreciate
Yeah,
if
like what are little gifts that you okay? Thinking of last year and the gifts you got this year. What are the little gifts that? And I say little, but what were your favorite gifts or sort type of gifts? You don't have to say exactly what it was, but did you get like a special design on a card? Did someone actually like? I know some people like to paint portraits or that sort of thing and just sign it and then they write a nice Christmas message and send it to you, sort of thing. Like, have you had any of those? Like, let's hear. Let me tap into what's going on in the life of Faye.
to be honest with you, when people ask me what I want, for Christmas, I just say just donate it to a charity. I don't need anything really. I mean, sure, there are things that I might appreciate, a good book and all of that stuff, but I don't need it. So
Oh,
I don't want to sound, like a saint or anything because I'm not. But I think I'm just really passionate about the, the good work that charities do because you know what,
oh,
um, you know, charities do what the public and private sector are either unwilling or unable to do so. And actually, a lot of charities do struggle for funds. So I just say donate it to charity. So, and that makes me feel good. Probably better than receiving a book or a plant or anything like that. So,
oh,
um,
you're a better person than me, Faye.
no.
You're a better person than me. Because let me pull out a list for you.
um,
What you said was absolutely beautiful as well, and I can tell it's truly something dear to your heart because to just deny yourself those niceties to say, oh well, we want to give this to your Faye, and you're like, no, it's all right, give it to a charity. Like that's sweet, and you're a bigger person than me because I'd be like, okay, so I want potted plants, and I want I want an Amazon gift card, and I always accept cash.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
I
absolutely.
I've never actually done the donate to charity thing, and I feel bad now
No,
a
I
little
mean,
bit.
that's just my sort of personal preference, and I'm in no way judging anyone
Oh,
who maybe wants something, but
mhm,
it's just we're all different people, aren't we? So
mhm.
you know,
That's true. And I've seen, especially this year, like Facebook, for example, they allow you to, instead of giving someone a birthday gift,
yeah,
they can publicly announce on Facebook to give it to this charity and they can pay directly through Facebook. Oh, that is so neat. And I still
yeah.
haven't done it. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
I haven't done it.
it's yeah. I mean, I would say there's no pressure on you. I mean, you're doing great work. I mean, you're a Black Beetle Health. You're truly making a difference in your own way. Um, and that's great. So I wouldn't devalue. Um,
I wouldn't call it devaluing. I just think, okay, you've um you've sort of opened my eyes to something that I never quite was aware. I would see it, but I never thought about it. I was just like, oh, that's nice. You want to donate to a charity, but now you've put more depth behind it. More, you've kind of expressed how meaningful it is, and then me myself working with the charity, it's just like what. I never thought of it from that personal perspective, and I think I'm going to challenge myself. It might not be this year,
no,
but
that's okay.
I'm going to challenge myself to redirect any gifts or that sort of thing. Maybe for my birthday, but not for Christmas. But
No, I
but
mean,
to give to charities, to ask my friends to accept instead of giving it to me, redirect it to a charity. And I won't just cheat and say, please give it to Black Beetle Health. I, I know I'm such a shameless, but I do love it. That was absolutely beautiful thing. And oh my goodness. All right. So say that being that out of the way, let me think of another thing. Wait, did I answer my own question as well? I did. Um, I don't know. My mind went blank. We don't even get any comments tonight, did we? I don't know. All right, I have one. I have one. I have one. Okay. Actually, do you have one for me? Because I'm just throwing questions at you.
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah.
do you have one for me?
Mm,
I've just bombarded you with questions, so that's why I'm asking.
no, that's fine. Keep them coming. I'm sure I'll
Okay.
think of.
Because I'm an open book, as I said, I'm pretty shameless. You could ask. Uh, my boundary is like a little small circle that you're probably not going to hit with asking questions unless we started drinking and then you started asking. Because then I'd be like, hold up, girl, I can't open that box. But all right. Okay. So in terms of, I'm trying to pretend that COVID isn't happening. COVID is happening. COVID is a thing. But in terms of family gatherings, they can tend to be a bit expensive as well. So how do you financially navigate around those situations in terms of if you're the host, how can you make it the most affordable gathering, especially this year, considering the lockdown and all the different rules and that sort of thing. I'm hoping you don't say what I was going to say, which was I'll just give my answer first. It's just like virtual. Just tell them to cook their own food, but I'll set up the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But some people actually do have the ability to mix households with some of the restrictions lifting up. And some people have planned for it in advance. Some people thought it wasn't going to happen, so they didn't plan for it. So now they're rushing to put it together when they realize that they can do it. But from a financial point of view, and I guess it goes back into the 3 points, the three sexy points I gave you gave earlier. But I just want to hear what you'll say about it. So what kind of tips would you give that person that's rushing right now to put together the family holiday dinner on a budget?
On a budget.
Uh-huh.
Um, so there are lots of supermarkets will have like roasted turkeys that are ready to go, and I'm vegan, so I wouldn't know what people normally what people
Wait,
normally
wait, wait! You're vegan?
yeah, I am, yeah. I guess people eat roast turkeys, right? And those little pigs in blanket. Yeah, so it's really easy to buy stuff that's ready made,
Uh-huh.
but they do often tend to be pricier, right? So it can be um, cheaper if you just sort of buy the main sort of ingredients and make it your own. I guess that's one way of cutting down costs. You know, like homemade roast potatoes instead of forking £2, £2 or £3 on,
Mhm.
you know.
Okay. All right. No, that's true. And before we continue on that, I'm just stuck on you're vegan. So now I want to tap into a different thing. What is I don't want to because I just made you talk about turkey and pigs and blanket and all of that, and I'm just like I feel bad now. But a vegan Christmas. What's on your Christmas menu?
It's a meat and potato pie. It's not meat, but it's kind of like Lindsay McCartney, pulled pork, sort of thing. It's made out of soy, but
Okay,
honest.
I'm just like, excuse me, you said vegan and you said meat and pulled pork. I'm like, what kind of vegan are you?
No, no. Honestly, it's made out of soy, and it's not as gross as you think it is. Okay, it really does. It's quite similar in texture and taste to pork,
Mhm,
and it's kind of like a meat and potato sort of
mhm,
pie.
mhm,
Then you have your regular stuff. Your roasted veg, your roasted potatoes, and gravy and all of
mhm.
that sort of stuff. So it's not all that different really.
Okay.
So yeah,
Do you
it's
wear the chef hat as well?
do I what to say?
Do you
Chef's
wear the
hat?
chef hat? Yeah.
No, no. I cannot see myself.
No, because I was about to say, come on, share a little bit more. Tell me how you cook that. Because
No.
I never had the actual run in with anyone that was coming to something I was hosting and then actually hits me with, oh, by the way, I'm vegan. So I've never actually had to prepare a vegan dish. So when you said that, I just thought, that's
Yeah.
true.
I
Mm,
mean, I
I
mean,
didn't
what's it?
consider it.
Yeah, people think that being vegan is really hard. And honestly, like before I was, I thought it would be, I thought no way was I ever going to be vegan, but here I am. But no, it's just really easy to adapt. I mean, so I'll be at my family's for Christmas, and they're not vegan. They eat meat. So it's really easy because they'll just do the raw roasted turkey, and I'll just eat the meat and potato pie and all the trimmings. So it's fine. So it all works out really, really.
Okay. I mean, again, you're stronger willed than me because wow, you actually go to the smell alone. Ooh, oh, that's too much temptation. It is too hard for me. I
Yeah.
tried to do a whole thing where I was slowly trying to do vegetarian for a week, and I replaced a lot of things with cauliflower because I bought a
Mm.
lot of it. Truth be told, it was because cauliflower was on sale, and I said I might as well take this opportunity.
Hey, that's a good way of cutting down costs. I mean, go to
Yes,
supermarket late at night. They'll have things on offer.
yes, there you go. And that's essentially what I did. But I don't. No, I lost the will at the end, and I started putting things like chicken gravy over the cauliflower. Then I all of this. I even put a post up on one of my stories where I was so frustrated with the cauliflower. I put it in the air fryer, the rest of it, and I just left it there till it burned almost to a crisp. And then I was like, see, now I can eat it. And then I sprinkled some cheese on it, and I
Oh
ate
no.
it.
Oh
That's how much I
no.
hate cauliflower now. So
Oh no, King.
again, wow, Faye, you are phenomenal because I've tried and I couldn't do it.
You know what? I think people think that people take a black and white approach to it. It's either you eat meat or you don't. But actually, it's not. It's not like clear cut. I mean, you
Mhm.
could maybe not eat meat for one day a week, and meatless Mondays, and that's still fabulous. That you're still making a difference, and so I wouldn't say you know just because you like if you want to eat meat one day, just eat it and then go vegetarian for the rest of the week. That's fine.
Yeah. And do you think, all right, so we're talking about costs again. When you make the switch to vegan, do you find that you saving more or spending more? Because when I do see some of those little Facebook vegan recipe like clips, they look pretty pricey because a lot more ingredients go into making a vegan dish from what I've seen. But I've never looked at the cost side of it. So
Yeah.
personally, what have you found? Was it a cheaper switch?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Because meat is expensive. Well,
Hmm.
maybe not as expensive, but it's a lot more expensive when you consider um, buying beans or pulses or
That's true.
things like that. So it's very cheap compared to opting for
Mhm.
meat. So I think you know that's a real saving there. And of course, I mean, if you go for processed vegan food, like um, Linda McCartney sausages or whatever, obviously that's going to be pricier than if you um, eat something else like with lentils. Lentils are cheap. Do you know what I mean? So it really depends how you go about with it. It can be expensive if you choose for it to be,
Mhm.
but not necessarily.
All right. Look at that. Listen, I don't know if I have the will to try it still, but I just thought it would benefit any listeners as well if they were considering it. When you put it that way, absolutely, because a tin of like chickpeas is like 20p or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Versus then getting, let's see, what do I know the price of? like a pack of chicken thighs and stuff, or a pack of sausages, which is like £3,
Mm.
and that's all going to the same meal. So if you cut the meat portion out of that, you're saved £3 essentially, right? So you're right. I never looked at that. Looked at it from that angle before. Learned so much. I want to hit you with one more,
Yeah.
and all right, let's see. Credit cards. Do
Credit cards.
you, so it's all great when we think about the whole um the three steps. I'm trying to make them a thing, okay? Visualize your incomes and expenditures, anticipate what you want to spend on and save from earlier on,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you can't buy it, craft it. So I'm trying to
Exactly.
make it a thing. You stay, you watch. You're gonna see it in the newsletter. Anyway. So how? Oh no, my mind was moving faster than my mouth. Right, credit cards. So with that being said, how would you advise someone to be careful not to overspend on credit as well?
Well, I personally don't have a credit card,
Mhm.
because I think it's really easy to buy things on credit, and it allows for you know more impulsive purchases, So I try to avoid that. But in terms of the people out there that have a credit card, I think it's again really important to reassess your to always assess your financial situation really, um, and to I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's really easy to say don't rely on credit cards, but to be honest, if people have a limited budget, of course they're going to use credit cards. But I think it's just being very mindful of being able to use them. And also, actually, there are apps out there if that can restrict your spending. So, if you have an issue with overspending, then you can block that card, So, yeah, so you can absolutely do that. So I guess I don't think that's very good.
No, that was a good tip because even my bank, well, one of my banks, they've just added it to their mobile app. I don't use it. I keep because I thought it was annoying, but when you said it like that, I'm like, hmm. But they've added the feature of blocking and unblocking your credit card temporarily. That is, and also the money
Yeah.
like the money advisor app thing. So it sort of says, "Oh, look, you spent more than last month by this month." That sort of thing. It's that constant reminder, almost um, like a guilty conscience, just reminding you, like, "Hey, you spent £5 extra this week. Be careful." Those things are actually useful. I let my Alexa do it at the moment, not sponsored, but but Alexa is my favorite friend. She helps me a lot with like budgeting and market like shopping lists and that sort of thing. And it's helped in many aspects of my life, and surprisingly, finances is one of them. And that's all. Well, she only helps a little bit. I'm not giving her that much credit, but
Mm,
I keep my shopping list with her. She reminds me of the prices and stuff. Um, so
yeah.
with that being said, I am so happy we had this chat, Faye, and again, I'm still excited of these three sexy points that I put together. I say I put together, but I pulled them from you. So to recap, visualize, anticipate, and craft it. All right, I'm gonna stop being extra. So that was a great chat, and I'm hoping that anyone watching this did give you some help or some insight into how to get funding if you're a grassroots organization or a charity, and as well as personal budgeting during the holidays. And if you want to see this clip, we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel. That's the Black Beetle Health on YouTube. And you could always shoot us an email, admin@blackbeetlehealth.co.uk, if you have any further questions for myself or for the magnificent Faylee.
Oh, well, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you've got something out of it as well. So thank you.
Wonderful. Just one quick plug. Tomorrow ends the Deck Your Halls series that we've been doing, and we're wrapping up with our guest, Starla Lawrence Tulloch, who's going to walk me through making plans and sticking to them. So tune in for that as well. Again, thank you and happy holidays. Thank you again as well, Faye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.